Does your back or hip hurt when walking? Does it hurt after prolonged standing or sitting as well? Do you find it hard to sleep on the side with this hip pain? Well, you're not alone. Listen along to find out what could be going on. Hi, I'm Liz from East West Physiotherapy. Thank you for joining me on this channel. We're talking about back and hip pain when walking today. There's one specific muscle that is key in keeping our hips stable and level when we're standing on one leg. This is the gluteus medius muscle. We stand on one leg more than you think. Every time you take a step, you need to stand on one leg before landing on the other foot. When you run, you push off one leg. When you're putting on pants in the standing position, you're standing on one leg. You can feel pain most often with activities in positions that stress the glute med muscle. This includes things like longer walks, especially if it is on sand, sitting slouched in a chair, sitting in a very low chair, or sitting with your legs crossed. Longer sporting activities like distance running, long tennis matches, aerobics, laying and sleeping on the fetal position, and having a Morton toe where the second toe is longer than your first toe. When this muscle is tight, trigger points can form, causing referred pain to the low back and outer hip area. There are 3 trigger points for this muscle, and you can test this by pushing on these areas. First, find your iliac crest, which is that semicircular bone along the back and outside of your hip. On one end closest to your back, you will feel a large protrusion. Just come off that ridge and push into the muscle. If you have a trigger point there, you will feel pain radiating towards your low back and bum. To find the second trigger point, run your fingers along that crest again, and just before the midpoint of that ridge, bring your fingers just off that ridge and push into the muscle. If you have a trigger point there, you will feel pain radiating down the hip and upper back thigh. The third trigger point is found at the outside of the hip along the ridge. Press into that region and you will feel pain towards the low back and SI joint area. There are 3 things you can do to help release these trigger points: self-trigger point release, stretching, and using a heat pad. Trigger point release. Grab a tennis ball or lacrosse ball and place it on that trigger point area that is bothering you. Put pressure on that ball by pushing it into the wall or laying onto the ball. You should feel a slight soreness and achiness in the area. Maintain the pressure on the area until the pain slowly dies down. Stretching. The gluteus medius is a fan-shaped muscle with multi-directional fibers. This means that we will need to move the hip in different angles to capture the entire muscle. Lay on the non-affected side with both knees bent. Bring the bottom foot up and rest it on top of the knee joint on the upper leg. This stretches the posterior fibers of the gluteus medius muscle. To stretch the more anterior fibers, lay with the trunk in a straight line, knees bent behind you. Bring the bottom foot up to rest on top of the knee. Push the knee downward. Feel a stretch at the side of your hip. To increase the stretch, you can bring one arm over your head. Heat pad. Using a heat pad will bring circulation to the tight muscles and further release tension. Using heat after stretching or trigger point release will be useful. There are some positions and activities that you would want to avoid when rehabbing your glute med. The main purpose is to unload the muscle temporarily to allow it to relax. Positions such as sitting on super low seats where your knees are above the hips, standing or leaning onto one leg, crossing your legs when sitting, or putting a wallet in your back pocket, then sitting on that wallet will aggravate the glute med trigger point. As well, avoid sleeping on the affected side, and when you are sleeping, make sure to have a pillow in between the knees to keep the hips aligned. I hope this information was helpful. Please leave a comment down below if you've had a glute med trigger point and what worked for you. Till next time.